Good morning, and thank you for joining us for some Sunday coffee. My co host is still the future governor of Virginia, TK Eppley. And this morning we're going to be talking about deep thinking, which is a continuation from what the Ninja and I were talking about on Wednesday, and then the importance of the absence of thought. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and this is EchelonOrchid. Good morning, TK.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Hopefully, well, I haven't seen our favorite our favorite Southerner, Stoney, join yet to give us a good sound check to see how things are working. But I'm sure.
Your partner in the industry.
Yeah. And you could say my co-conspirator of getting you elected as governor. Well, we're just starting. We're waiting to get that groundswell of people. Oh, how has your week been? I mean, you're in God's country up there in Ann Arbor, so. So I think I love it. It's just a cool little town. Yeah.
One of the places I hang out was kind of packed. I had to kind of deal with that, but everybody was out having fun. There was a lot of amazing food.
Oh yeah, it's fun there during football weeks. But if you can handle it in doses. I don't know that I would want to be there for the entire college football season.
Well, I mean, they only have five, 6 home games, so it's not like it's not like it's every weekend. But no, like I said, everybody's close enough. There's a lot of people, but it's not like rowdy. I guess it's probably the right way to say it. Right? Everybody's being cool and having a good time. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So the Ninja and I were talking about this first part of like just deep thinking, like how much time do we spend just thinking? And you as a CEO of a startup company, how much time do you think you spend daily just trying to think about anything from something going on in your personal life, professional? How much time do you think you dedicate to just thinking?
Quite a bit, actually. I mean, I think especially the time that I've been with the company, I think the first business is just getting to a point where you can empower everybody else, right? Like we talked about before, I can delegate all the authority on the planet. I never absolve myself of the responsibility of leading the organization, right? And once you get people that are, in this case, my direct reports, that are really high functioning people that they've taken ownership of what they've done and feeling empowered to be successful, it allows you to kind of back away from, getting, behind the plow, so to speak, right? You don't have to hold on. Somebody else is holding onto the plow. And then it allows you to be forward thinking about most everything, whether it's, conduct of the business day, your relationships, your regular life, and things like that. But I think it's hugely important that, like Jeff Bezos said, because if I make 2 or 3 really good decisions that day, I make a great day. Right? I would say, if you make one great decision a day, all right, that's a really good day. And what I've gotten to the point in my life is when I think about leading an organization, I think that being reflective of the leader is hugely important. And the kind of way I've done it is I tell my folks, like, I break time. There's a lot of good ideas that are being germinated amongst everyone in the company, and we have an incredibly talented staff. And periodically, it's 5-5, right? Somebody comes in and says, "Hey, what are you going to do?" My job's to break the tie. It's not to make a big decision. It's to decide which of the decisions that's already been made is the best one to execute. Right? And I think being, not lost in thought of these market space is hugely important.
Yeah, and that's some of the things that I think when I talk to people about the deep thinking aspect, because I probably spend a good dedicated 2 to 3 hours a day.
Actually, I mean, that ball, but maybe a little bit more, especially because, really, certainly after working hard, I've got me, right? So you get the opportunity to just slow down and say, what's important, what's important now, right? And if I look in the past, like what did I think was important, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? How did that inform my decisions that are happening, my outcomes that are happening today? And based on that, what am I doing and being in thought about the future?
Yeah, and I look, and actually, I don't believe my 2 to 3 hours a day is even enough. I always feel like it's not enough time, and it gets back into those decisions. If I could make just because as you mentioned, I delegate down, so I'm hoping they do a fair amount of thinking as well. So by the time things bubble up, I'm only having to resolve some really, really good problems. And so if those decisions that I make are based on the aspect of me having to make decisions that will solve some really, really good problems, then it takes more thinking power. And it just builds up. It just builds up.
What actions can I see being taken? I mean, as a leader, you not only have to be prepared to defend and operate the business on a daily basis, you also have to be prepared to articulate a vision for the business for those that are outside the business, right? And that's part of the growth curve, right? And how do you talk about the business, and how do you excite and passion others that are not in the organization to want to help you, want to buy your stuff, and all the positive things, right? And even like when I go out to dinner, you go to the bar where I'm like, you sit next to somebody eating at the bar, like, oh, so what do you do? Well, that's your opportunity to make a vote of what you thought about earlier in the day, earlier in the week, or and you're basically taking some ideas for a test drive on unsuspecting people, right? And I think that's a direct byproduct of how much effort you put into thinking about the business.
Yeah, so I just did some quick numbers here, TK, for you. So for you, I think then you have probably spent your lifetime 168,812 and a half hours of thinking, because I had to take some time off from when you were a teenager. So 185 years of you thinking, 365 days a year. Well, I mean, I think that's the really the part of making is that it's cumulative. Like you keep building on those thoughts. So by doing so, the more time you spend thinking, you may feel smarter, and to others you may be smarter, but it's really just spending more time thinking about things. I don't think I'm smarter than a vast majority of people. I just spend more time thinking about things. And so it just looks like I have all the answers when really, no, I've just spent hundreds and hundreds of hours thinking about things.
But if you look at, especially in Native American culture and why they value the elders and why they value the chief or the tribe, because, as many trips around the sun, right? And you notice many trips around the sun that people are contemplating about their existence, and the elders are thought
Most of the time, it's true.
with this thing is, you start to say, hey, I'm not going to, I'm going to let somebody else control my thoughts, right? Rather than saying, no, I'm not. What do I think, and how can I, help help me, help the planet, help the people I work with, and get bigger, better, and faster at doing life.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I go through my thought sessions, and a lot of times I do it, you know, part of it like in the sauna, just because I'm not going to bring technology inside there because it's pretty hot, and so I don't want to do that. But I tend to not have any of my technology around me when I do so. I tend to do it while walking. Sometimes it's just in my office. I'll just walk circles. And, and when I'm done is when I write everything down. What all the things that I remember. And so I started, as Jason and I were talking about this, and I started to reflect back on our conversation. I started going, well, you know, and I didn't get a chance to ask him this, but I know you've spent some time in meditation. How important do you think it is of trying to clear your mind of all thoughts?
I think it's, you know, I kind of call it racing the board. Right? You've got, I think there's a Eastern guy, John Capone, that talked about years before. But it's an energy thing, right? I've got X amount of energy that I have during the day. You know, I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning, I'm fresh. That is pretty solid, right? And if I have a goal, the more straight boulders left and right that I focus on, right? And that's, you know, where you give your energy, right? You're either focusing on the end state or you're focusing on things that matter less or don't matter. That you don't get it from, right? But I think when when you talk about being in thought, part of being in thought is lack of thought, right? Or it's clearing, like I said, it's erasing the board, so to speak, saying, okay, I think the hardest thing to do in life as an adult is change your mind, right? We all have life experience, we have biases, you know, we have outside input that comes at us, so we develop a belief system or thing that we imagine to be important that we use as guideposts, and sometimes you've got to sit down and kind of erase the board and go, maybe I'm not right about that, right? And I think that's when you say, hey, I'm going to be deep in thought. I think it always starts with saying, hey, being deep in thought doesn't mean me being, you know, my inner thoughts being an echo chamber for what I already know. I need to erase the board, and I need to start writing new things up there, and hopefully in that newness, I have the next great idea, I have the next great way to take care of somebody, I have the next great way to take care of myself, frankly. And I think that's really when you start talking about not being thought. To me, it doesn't mean you're not in thought, it just means you're contemplating different outcomes than you've had before, and in order to do that, you have to clear your mind of your biases and prejudices and thought patterns you've had in the past.
Yeah, definitely need to do those things. And so when I first started learning how to meditate, I couldn't go, maybe 15 seconds without some thought. Right? I I think at this particular point, I can get pretty close to 10 minutes of just complete absence, and just kind of listening to the sound of my breathing. Um, but that has taken me, when I was thinking about it, 10 minutes of not having a thought, like training yourself to not have that thought of anything really, took me 15 years of meditation in order to get to that point.
It's funny because a few years ago, I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do, right? So I started, wanting to, and I don't even call it meditation, just be in thought with myself, right? Own your own thoughts and your emotions. And I'm not even going to tell you I'm good at it, right? Because I get passionate about things and I want to hurt myself and other people, right? I mean, figuratively, right? But what I found is, like, when you think of the typical way that you imagine people meditate, they sit there with their legs crossed and their back rigid and they go. That, to me, that didn't work. Right? So I would lay on my back on the floor and I would put noise down against the headphones on. And I got a lot farther, a lot quicker once I felt comfortable. Right? I mean, it was, to say the least, deliberate when do the same thing. It's like you start with, hey, how can I get to 5 minutes? How can I get to 10 minutes? And I got to the point where after a while I felt like I was sleeping. Like, you know, when you when I said, okay, now I have enough time to go. And that's not really saying like 45 minutes I can do that. But some days you just can't, right? Some days you're looking at your need to focus on other things other than yourself. And I'm not even saying that's good. But I'm also saying that a lot of times when you start focusing on yourself, that's not good either. Something, right? That's where you have to say, how am I going to control me? Right? And that's, I think that's the hardest thing that we do as humans is how to control ourselves. Right? And I tell everybody, I'm not telling anybody I'm good at it. I'm just saying that I understand where I need to be, and hopefully most days I get there.
Right. And this is what I found that being the best combination for me. And like I set a time for how long I'm going to meditate, and it's not as important as to that I can get to 10 minutes. Even if I only got to 5 minutes, it's I recognize I allowed a thought to come in. I got rid of it and I go back because I like all right because I want to try to meditate for or at least have a 30-minute session of meditation is what I try to do. And I don't really have a good rhyme or reason. This has just been what I've found works well for me is that I'll meditate to try to clear everything, kind of like almost like you said, erasing the whiteboard. And then that's when I go into my what am I going to think about today? That one, I come out of that meditation, I feel energetic. I feel all right. I've got all this stuff ready to go, and then going into those thinking sessions, I've seen that which I might do 30 minutes, and then I might do an hour to an hour and a half of thinking on different topics of whatever it might be. But that right there is seems to be my sweet spot of how I accomplish those things.
Cover up the things you're not good at and try to, make money, metaphorically off the things you are good at, right? One of the things I think I'm really good at, my ability to part now, is that, okay, there's, all these other things going on in the world around me. Right now I have to do X. And I'm really good at pushing everything else out of the way just to do that. And I don't know how or when I got that skill over the years, but even now, like, I can be lost in thought. Like, I can be in my office going, hey, we're saying, well, how is this going to turn out in X amount of months, X amount of years, decades, sense? But when somebody comes in the office and says, here's what we're doing, here's why, what do you think? I have a really good ability in short order to clear my head and go, okay, now what do I need to focus on to make that outcome as good as it can be?
This is came across. I was with the little guys yesterday, and we were watching this thing from Bear Grylls. I don't even know how you say his name, but I was curious. I've never really asked this, and you can always say you can't answer it. But when you were, in uniform, did you do like survival training as well? Because this guy, he was former SAS, broke 3 vertebrae, all this kind of stuff, and I was looking up his stuff, and it's like I'm like this guy went to extreme. He did like survival training in the desert and in the Arctic. Like those are two extremes. So,
I always felt, having done a lot of winter training, that if you can survive in winter wonderland, you can survive anywhere. Right? I have a friend of mine that he is in the jungle in particular, like bugs love him. Like they absolutely like if you sit and nobody else is getting bit by mosquitoes or not falling in, everything on earth is like on him. Like I don't know, like what he gives off, but so he volunteered to go and find him in winter. Right? And he's like, hey, when I'm out in the Arctic, if something's going to come and want to eat on me, I can see it coming. It's going to be roasting the top of the country. It's like a polar bear. It's really, really big, right? But if you can survive in the jungle, unless you get bit by something that's highly toxic, survival in the jungle is not hard. Like you don't there's plenty of reasons for survival and like we used to joke around. We said if we stop to take a break, if you're in a pack, you're a full backpack, and the one thing you're going to put on top of this heavy ass rucksack is your Vortex jacket, your warm coat. So when you stop to take a break, get some water and stuff, the first thing you do is you still have your skis on, and you take that backpack on. The first thing you do is grab your jacket, put it on, and wrap yourself up. When you're skiing, you probably got overlights on and some like really, polished undergarment because you're working. Skiing with a pack on, it's all on skiing work. And when we said, hey, we're leaving in 3 minutes, don't be the guy that's still stuffing his jacket in the backpack at 3 minutes and 2 seconds because once you take that jacket off, you are starting to die. Right? In some measure. And the longer you stand around with inaction. And so the point now, like, when I did this 30 years ago, like, catch up. We got boots, right? And in the desert is another environment that is remote, right? Mostly due to lack of water, and to a certain extent heat, right? I mean, it's like out of 29 palms in some Marine Corps training facility out in the California desert, when they have somebody that like gets lost and dies in the desert, you know what they find on them most often? When they're dead in the tank, a canteen full of water.
They just forget to drink it?
No, they think they're saving it for some other occasion. Like I'm going to go as long as I can without drinking it because I want to have the water. If there is no water, like I want to have some reserve. But it was when I heard that early 80s, early 90s, and I couldn't imagine it. And having trained out there, they're like, oh yeah, you're like, I don't know where my next drink is coming from. I'm going to save what I have. And I think I think it's different now. But I look back and I think there's certainly when I was on active duty, I was perpetually dehydrated. What you do or not, we didn't concentrate with that, but the whole concept of full hydration is great. Like I see pictures or videos of guys going through ski training now, and they all have canteens on. That's a big deal, right? I mean, when I went through, there was one time you do the set, it's like a 10 or 14-mile run on the beach, and it's a completion exercise, right? It's not a race. You have to complete it. And at like the 10-mile mark when I was there, they had a big 5-gallon container of Gatorade. Back in Gatorade, it was like it was a new hot thing, right? And but the kids that were supposed to have forgotten cups. So all of a sudden they're like, "Yep, too bad." We don't know wait. So when we got done, there was a 5-gallon container of Gatorade, and the cups that magically showed up. But there was this dependency on hydration.
Right.
And the importance. I think if you listen to like tales of the 50s and 60s of big college football, and we got back hey, the way they check for concussion was slap in the head, right? The stick up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Same way you go all through practice without water because water was consistent.
Interesting. So I'm wondering, and this is just my observation, and that the reason why you're so good at being able to compartmentalize is because as you went through buds, everything was, I just need to make it to the next meal. So in your survival training, it's, I just have to get to this next step. And so if I can't, that concerted effort of, a 20-year career of, well, I'm just going to focus on this piece.
Right. I also think like when you deploy as well, like there's a little value of thinking about what goes on at home, right? In any measure, right? But I also say this, from more than an hour, even when I was home, I was never home.
Sure.
Right, and that's that's kind of like looking now. My father really interested in my son is different than my daughter. I mean, all of it has to do with me, right? Period. That's the way I can't blame anybody else out. But in that, a lot of it is my behavior of I Jared was 8 or 9 when I retired. I don't think I know I put minimal effort into him as a little guy because I was gone at the time, and then when I was home, I was thinking about being gone. Right? And where my daughter is a different story. Right? And but I still, to this day, when I have to focus on something, I can stop thinking about everything else for a period of time.
Yeah, well, you had all that training on having to compartmentalize. All right. It was just one of the things that popped into my head, just because it actually. So our little guy, I call him Capone because it's Alphonse, and he's actually doing quite well with jujitsu. Like he wants to do it. So he's like, "Why? What's Capone?" I'm like, and it's like Al Capone, one of the most infamous gangsters that it was in the U.S. history. She's like, I'm not a gangster. I'm like, yet. Yeah. And I said, Al, I said, the great thing about him is that he has this great saying, and by all accounts was true, was that never mistake my kindness for weakness. I'm kind to everyone that I meet. But if you are not kind to me, my response will not be weak. And that's the way, I'm hoping that all of the kids will be. Hey, be kind to everyone. But you're going to get trained, or if someone's not, time to remove them from the chessboard.
It's the old saying, better to be a warrior than a guardian in a war.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's easy answer on all that.
Yeah, which is also an interesting little takeaway. So, I mean, it's no secret that I love watching the UFC. And I was watching it last night, and the strawweight champion woman's, her name's Rose Namajunas. And she never engages in any type of trash talk. She just takes it. And in her pre-interview, the reporter asked, like, "What is it that you want to do?" She goes, "I'm just doing this so I can get home and garden. I just want to grow things." And then she just goes out and just she's just, yeah, 115 pounds of Tasmanian devil. But all these other women, they try and talk trash to her, and she just looks at them. It's like water rolling off a duck's back. She's like, okay, like, yeah, yeah. Because when you engage in trash talk and it doesn't work. I mean, I love the trash talk. I love to get people thinking about what it is. But if it does, yeah. But if it doesn't, I'll just find something else. Like it doesn't stop. But if I can get that little nudge, oh well, now I've got you thinking about it, and so. But I see a lot of people when the trash talk doesn't work, especially in combat sports. Then the person that's doing the trash talking, they don't know what to do next because they were always focused on the trash talking. But anyway, that aspect of being a warrior in a garden versus a garden in a war, yeah, don't think that's going to turn out too well.
Somebody asked Jocko about he's a badass jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
Right? He was like, what happens if somebody does this? Like, I'll walk away.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there's huge value in that. It's, especially as you get older, right? I mean, what happens when you're around 25? What happens today is different, right? But the only difference, but the only time that Jocko said this, and I really have him to it is, he's like, I'll walk away, I'll run away, I'll do whatever I have to do to get away from that conflict because I have feet, I can do that. And there's no honor in basically somebody, poking on you, you turn around and smack on your head, right? Just like dumbass and do what you want to do. He says that changes somebody grabs him and drives him over the ground.
Yeah.
Right? I would say it's that. gotta walk away. That or if somebody attacks, not necessarily physically, but most likely physically attacks somebody that way, right? Especially somebody that can't defend themselves, right? And people may think that's an anachronistic thought or whatever, but that's to me is the thing. It's like, hey, one of the things that you know that I was always like, hey, defend people that can't defend themselves. Right? How can I try? How can I make positive change? And I can make positive change by helping people that can't help themselves. Whether that's helping somebody across the street because they're, have some physical malady, or be so frank. I have a relationship with a homeless dude outside of Hamilton in DC. The Hamilton restaurant, right? And I always have. I don't know how to do it. I'm not largely big on walking by every homeless person and trying to give them money or thing, right? Because a lot of it's a mental health issue and it's much bigger than giving them money. But I walked out there one night and I asked me for money and I said, what are you going to do with the money? He's like, I want to go to the shop. And I gave him money and I walked across the street to my hotel, but I stayed where I could see him. And he went over and he grabbed something to eat. Didn't get liquor again, just grabbed something to eat and came back and sat down where he was at. And so this is, more than a few years. It's like every time I see the guy, when I'm in DC, I'm always inclined to want to, in the immediacy, do the easiest thing you could do to somebody is give them money, right? I think if you give somebody time, then you're not, you're really investing. Giving people money is easy, but because I saw him be a man of his word, even in his destitute situation, that's how I think I can help, because I know that he's going to go get something to eat. Right? And I meet people where they are sometimes. Meeting them where they are, it can be uncomfortable for you. And I think that's when you start saying, hey, I'm going to help the planet. How am I going to help the planet? And you do it one interaction at a time. Right? People like these billionaires, they have their view, and they have their worldview, and they try to push their worldview on everyone else. I think the easiest thing to say is, hey, I don't have those types of means, right? But I'm in no way poor or anything like that. I'm wealthier than probably the planet, right? And the fact that there's a significant piece of the planet that has almost zero money. But how can I affect change? And my personal opinion is I don't expect change by pushing my worldview on people. I meet people where they're at and try to help them get to the place where they imagine a good outcome.
I think that's the important part. I often will, when people ask for advice, especially once I know them, I tend to, when they'll ask for whatever type of advice. Oh, they're saying they can't hear you. I don't know why. Stoney, I don't know why. I thought we had this thing figured out last time. Stoney, you got to start showing up a little bit earlier. Let's see, line in. That's my mic. Well, we'll find out. We'll see if this works any better. One of these days, I'll actually get this figure out all this sound stuff in my spare time. Yeah, exactly. One of my rest breaks. We'll see if that works. They can hear the dogs barking and everything else like that, but they can't hear TK. Well, hopefully that winds up doing it. Well, this is why this is a good part when he says he's been texting. I didn't realize he's been able to text that long with his not having good use of his opposable thumbs. Well, we'll see what winds up happening with it. The good news is that when I go through and I do the editing and before I repost, I can always fix the audio there
Okay.
in post production. But it might just be time to actually get a little bit different of an output. We'll find out. Oh, we'll just make Stoney keep having to turn up his volume.
It's probably right around 11 right now.
Oh, yeah. So we were talking about the advice part, like when you talk about meeting people, where kind of like where they want to be. I look at it as when they, especially with advice, I ask them, do they want to know what I would do, or do they want to know what I think they should do? Because they're not always the same. Most of the time, they're vastly different because your goals. Me knowing what your goals are gets it to where I want to help you reach your goals, not just what I particularly want.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing. I think it's most profound in your children, right? I think one of the hardest things to do as a parent when you say you care is to care about where they want to go, not your vision of where they should go.
Right. Which can be a challenge, because especially with your kids, because now you're certainly much more invested in them than you would be likely in some of your friends or coworkers.
Like it's very hard because from the minute you're going to have a child or you have a child, then you have a vision of where their life is and outcomes that are better than yours. Right? And if they do things that you may think are counter to that, or you can't imagine it being, productive in the long run, that's when it's really hard to meet somebody where they are.
They're still saying barely hearing you. Well, we'll figure this thing out. I'll keep playing. Yeah, yeah. So I changed one more option and see what happens.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting because my oldest hasn't really quite figured out what he wants to do. He went down a path of I'm gonna join the National Guard because he qualified for cyber warfare. He got talked out of it, not by me. Like, what happens if a war breaks out? And I'm like, cyber warfare. Like, dude, you're going to be in the United States. We could do that stuff from anywhere. Like, you're not going to be like in the trenches in Afghanistan. It's a little bit different. And then he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to school. And then it's like, well, I don't want to take out student loans. And I'm going, one, the media has really taken this aspect of student loans in a completely wrong direction. And he's like, he still doesn't quite understand because at that time he was just 18 years old. And I said, well, it's quite simple. If you take out a loan for $50,000 and you can make $50,000 a year in perpetuity, you take out the loan for 50 grand. It's just, it's called net present value. Like you see how these things work, and then you go and do it. And I said, well, let's take the example of my MBA. It costs, $170,000 for that MBA. So I was like, okay, well, if I can make $50,000 more a year, for, over 3 years, and basically it's paid for, or if I make $30,000 a year, I could pay this off in about 5.5 years with that. But then that's $30,000 a year for the rest of my life. Yeah. Right.
Right, but I think where student loans have got a bad rap because in a lot of ways, a lot of students are taking out loans against an education that won't pay them back.
Yeah.
Right? When you said, and we talked about this before, but when you said, hey, I'm accruing debt in education, you put it against degrees inside it. But things that are it's a growth industry. Art history is not a growth industry.
No.
I'm not saying that we don't need people to be preservationists and do that kind of thing. But when you're taking out $150,000 a loan, but you can get a 30 grand a year job, 40 grand, like you're maxing on, I gotta get a master's so I can make 60 grand. But you keep accruing debt. At some point, the decision to take on any debt is based on what the perceived value against that debt. And I think the kind of the unkind joke is like, well, if you get a degree in gender studies or whatever it is, like, yeah, you're not, right? But if you get an engineering degree, you get a degree in business, or things that where you can go out and you can not only ascertain value, but you can put it against it very quickly. And I think that's the difference. And it's hard for kids, that today, because I think as adults and as society, we've spent far too much time telling kids, hey, this is the only path to success. And if you look now, whether it's welders, electricians, and steelworkers, all that, there's a big deficit of tradespeople, and now that deficit is gonna cause all goods and services to be much more expensive, because now to get people interested in doing it, you're gonna have to pay them demonstrably more than you have. And like I said, if you're a tradesperson, you might never be a millionaire unless you start your own company and you grow, you have that entrepreneurial thing. But as a worker, you may never be a millionaire, but you'll always be able to feed yourself, your family, and send your kids to school and do all the things that as Americans we consider to be the American way. What's going on over there?
Stoney's going, you spent 150 grand on a degree and you can't turn up TK's volume? I'm like, I'm not a sound engineer. This is a learn as you go. There's not that there's anything wrong with art history majors or anything along those lines, but here's the thing.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's like, what am I going to be compensated when I'm done? Like, what am I buying with that gap?
Well, right, but this is where I was going with it is, in order for you to make a solid income, you have to be in the top 1% of the 1% of that particular field.
Right.
As someone who is just an okay CEO for a company that brings in, 10, 15 million in revenue, you're making 500 grand. And 10, 15 million in revenue is not a very big company.
No.
So,
That's all depending on what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and so that's the piece of it. It's just a matter of like, especially if you enjoy it. Like, hey, because I just look at it as, from an art history perspective, it's already there. There's plenty of things that have already been written on it. You're not going and doing net new, so to speak. So, do that as your hobby, or learn that on your own and go then figure out how to monetize it. Right? That's where I go. Okay, look, you want to be in art history? Maybe do that as your minor and do your major in business or computer science or something along those lines. Because.
I just thought of it while you were talking. The other way to monetize it is be the person that takes the great works of art of history and
yeah.
Right, and provide an outlet for people to purchase copies of them that are authentic remakes of the master, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, right? But again, what you're saying is, I have some sort of business acumen, some sort of technology acumen, and I really dig art, right? But again, part of it is an 18-year-old, and I think a lot of it is just the expense, right? I mean, I think going to a public university when I was 18, all in with board, food, the whole 9 yards was like $6,000 a year, and it certainly is. I mean, I can remember Boston College was exceedingly expensive when I was in high school. $24 grand a year, the tuition was $75. What do I get for that? And I would say that I would hope you like when you went and got your MBA, you didn't pay for an education, you paid for a network.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was that.
Some education, you pay to be in a network now. The same with when kids go to Harvard or whatever. You're not paying for an education, you're paying for the postgrad.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that piece to this. I could absolutely learn all these things in business on my own. I learned most of the computer science stuff on my own. The issue was, especially for me with the MBA, I needed, for me, a new network of people. Everyone that I already basically knew they're all technologists of some capacity, and not business people. So in terms of that are out there. So my 170 grand was specifically to buy a network of people that I knew had nothing in common with at the time.
Right. But I think that's how we grow, right? And I will tell you, from personal experience, finding your building was as you get older.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Try that. That's probably going to be blasting in my ear now. We'll see if that one particular thing. We'll see how Stoney likes your talking now. But
no, I'm just not going to talk. No, you can do all the talking and I'll sit there quietly.
Oh yeah. They say it doesn't seem. I'm not sure if Stoney's getting this. This has to do with a sound mixer. Not and I've got all these gadgets on there. I think I need to get like with this the microphone. It's using some other type of connection. It's like a true digital audio connection, and I think that I've got your stuff going into this sound mixer with the basically it's taking the output speaker piece and then splitting it into like the whatever the red white cable's called, RCA. Is that what that is? Yeah. Sony thinks it's a conspiracy to keep you silenced.
He might be right. he may be correct.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, well, I'll wind up figuring it out at some point, one way or another. So, anyway, what do you got?
You'll be wrapped up in cables before it's all.
I mean, there's already a ton here, so it's just a matter of figuring out which thing works the best. Yeah, one way or another.
Very well.
It's all an experiment.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah, I've got no problems with it not being correct. I just go to the next one.
So, I think fail and learn.
Yeah, I mean it's either it's one or the other, right? So that one's there. What's this one going to? I've probably got these things backwards. That's probably why. Doesn't surprise me if that's what it is. I don't know. What is on the back of this thing? Line in. No, that was right. All right. Oh, well. Not going to worry about it. So what do you got going on the rest of this week?
I'm going out to Phoenix for an event on Wednesday. I'll be back up here in Ann Arbor. Get ready, it's the deal in business. It's Q4, right? You're finishing up the year, getting all the stuff set up for the next year financially and everything like that. And so did a bit of that last week, and getting ready to to build bigger next year than we did this past year.
Nice.
I was telling somebody the other day, with this company, this is probably the most enjoyable experience I've had in quite a long time. There's a great group of folks that work with us and everything like that, and it makes it easy for me to show up every day, and as we try to solve some hard problems.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I've got some. Technically, right now it's rum that is fermenting. We'll see what it. So I say technically it's rum because it's all
Sugar based.
It's all sugar. It's all sugar. But then from there, depending on what you distill it, first starts off as rum, and then it'll either be gin or vodka. But most of this will probably wind up being gin.
And that's just letting it go, and then you put all the herbal essence in there and everything like that.
Yeah, you do that, and then you redistill it. Because really, with gin, you want it to be a neutral spirit, and then that way your botanicals attached to it. Rum, you want that caramelly flavoring comes from the sugar.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, all right, my friend. Speaking of that, I'm going to go ahead to attend to those things. I got a copper still I got to weld.
Get after that.
Yeah.
Don't do that inside. I don't want to hear the explosion out there from Elkhart, Indiana.
Yeah, exactly.
You calling me with your Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Your glasses scorched.
Absolutely. All right. Yep. All right, friend. Have a good week. All right, everyone.
Have a great day.
Take care. Bye.